everyone? Chris here with the Comic Font, and here I'm going to talk about some of my favorite weddings in comic book history. I got about six favorite weddings I want to talk about that happened in comic books, and I'm going to talk about those in a minute. In the past month or so, we've had a couple of weddings that are happening around here. One, of course, is supposedly Peter Rasputin and Kitty Pryde, Colossus and Shadowcat in X-Men Gold number 30, and Batman and Catwoman in Batman 50. Problem is, that got spoiled. The New York Times reported on what was happening in those issues before the comics ever came out. And I'm going, what does the New York Times have against comic book guys? At least let the story come out before you blab the story. Jeez, this ain't a book review, for crying out loud where you can tell a little bit about it. Don't tell what's happening in the comic before we have a chance to read it. I mean, seriously, people. New York Times, I respect you for news, but when it comes to this kind of stuff, you have dropped the ball hard. I don't trust you guys anymore. I'm not calling you fake news, but I am calling you irresponsible at that point. I mean, geez. So anyway, you kind of know what's happening with that. I'm not going to reveal what happened to Batman 50 because I'm not like that. But X-Men Gold number 30, we all know. Kitty and Peter didn't get married, but Rogue and Gambit did. That's setting up for a new series of X-Men comics, Mr. and Mrs. X. Looking forward to it myself. And now, without further ado, here are my top 6 weddings in comic book history. Donna Troy and Terry Long, Tales of the New Teen Titans number 50. Now, the whole thing between Donna and Terry was like a long time coming, ever since like the first few issues of the New Teen Titans back in 1980. Just kept building up and stuff like that, and you saw the relationship happen between Terry and Donna go through its ups and downs and all that, leading to the wedding. Now, during the time, a lot of times happened, especially like times past, when you had a superhero wedding, somebody's got to come crash the party. Somebody's got to come and like spoil the things, stuff like that. And reading this, I was expecting Deathstroke to just jump through and like say, okay, no, or like the Fearsome Five or something like that. Somebody jumping in to like say, no, we're not having this wedding. This one of the few times that I saw like a comic book wedding come off nearly flawless, except for a tiff between Vic and Gar, or Cyborg and Beast Boy, then Changeling. This went as smooth can be. Typical wedding in a superhero community. Yeah, I admit, it's actually a pretty cool story. It's a nice, positive story, and that's what I dig about it. Also, the fact that we saw Donna and Terry's relationship grow during all this, and that's one of the best parts. Reed Richards and Sue Storm, Fantastic Four Annual number 3. Okay, now this one's for the record books because this was one of the first weddings that happened in comics that just was one of the biggest deals in the Silver Age. Reed and Sue, they were just bandied about a little bit, being teammates on Fantastic Four, dating for the longest while. They finally tied the knot in such an epic way. Heroes, villains, all over the place. Finally, at the end of it, getting married and spending the rest of their lives together, basically making the Fantastic Four more of a family than a super team, which is what they are initially. And the wedding helps stress that a good bit, that when you're FF, you're not just part of a team, you're part of a family. And that's one of the best things out there. What I liked about it was near the end of it, when like 2 people tried to crash the wedding, and judging by the dialogue, it was Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, the creators of the comic, the people who wrote and drew the comic, that specific comic, cannot get into the wedding. That's just funny. I like that. And they echoed that in Fantastic Four 2 Rise of the Silver Surfer movie, when Stan Lee tried to crash the wedding at the first part of the movie. And I looked at it, I'm going, oh my god, I love that. That's awesome. One of the best Stan Lee cameos out there to date. Of course, that's just my opinion. Superman and Lois Lane, Superman the Wedding Album. Superman and Lois Lane. That one has been coming around since about, I don't know, when Lois Lane was first introduced. About the same time Superman, 80 years ago. Yikes, from this date. And you see, but the thing is, like, you see this whole thing grow. Clark and Lois, during the whole thing, they just butted heads a good bit, and you saw like the whole give and take of their whole relationship happen. And it wasn't during like the modern times that you start seeing like them starting to grow together a little bit, especially during the whole post-Crisis on Infinite Earths like era, right after Men of Steel, 6-issue miniseries by John Byrne. You start to see Lois and Clark start growing together as a couple, and basically you see Lois falling for Clark before he finally revealed that he was Superman. And then one thing led to another, and all of a sudden, they finally got married. And of course, like I said, for like Reed and Sue, it was like, and of course, it's like kind of a combination of what happened with Reed and Sue and with like Donna and Terry. It was a typical wedding thing set up, all the stuff leading up to it, choosing the ring, choosing the dress, the bachelor party, bachelorette party, and just the whole craziness that happens with all this stuff. House hunting, everything. It's just, but the thing is, this being Superman, they got to ramp it up to a next level. So just made it more and more interesting. And you got to see who their friends really are, which is pretty cool and a half. And so, like, just seeing this happen, seeing Lois and Clark finally tie the knot, just a culmination of what, like, a lot of fans have been wanting, and myself included. Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson. Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 21. Now, with Peter and Mary Jane, that's one that just kind of came out of the blue. But when it came right down to it, the whole story leading up to it, I'm a big fan of that. Especially after what happened with Peter and Gwen. I mean, that was his biggest love right there, Gwen Stacy. And to have her death like that just really strike him so hard. And then how he and Mary Jane kind of grew together, and they fell in love with each other and got married. And the whole wedding issue, basically, of course, this super villain punch up, but that's to be expected in some Marvel comics. So, but one thing that I read about a lot is that a lot of people. Now, this was like very contested, especially during the One More Day story arc, which involved Peter and Mary Jane retconning their wedding just out of existence thanks to a deal with Mephisto to save Aunt May's life. Check the comics on this one. I'm not going to go into that one right now. But that whole thing was meant to a lot of controversy. But when I read a few years later that everybody was trying their damnedest to, like, as Marvel editorial trying to nullify the marriage altogether, try to figure out one way or another to, like, get rid of that. I was like, really? All right. So it was up to Dan Slott to write the One More Day story arc, and he has vehemently announced on boards, on Twitter, on everything that Peter and Mary Jane are never getting married again. The marriage will never return up to infinity, accordingly. And according to him, the closest thing they're ever going to get was going to be the Spider-Man Renew Your Vows line, which came from the second Secret Wars. And like they said, that's about as close as they're going to get to the actual Peter and Mary Jane getting married. And they had a fight to get that one. I mean it. The people of Marvel editorial do not want this wedding to last. But last it did. And a lot of people are like really angry at the fact that they broke up. It's one of the things where you have to trust the story. You have to trust where the writer is going with this, where the editing team is going with this, and just see what happens. And the thing is, it did allow Peter to grow a little bit. It did allow Peter a chance to own his own company, chance to enjoy success a little bit, to get that Tony Stark level of fame and genius. But at the same time, there's a little bit of me that wants Peter and Mary to get back together. But they are still together in Peter and Spider-Man. But they are still together in Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. And if you're lucky enough to have the Spider-Man comic strip in your in your daily newspaper. But Peter and Mary Jane are still married in Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, which works as a bit of a compromise. And if you're lucky to have Spider-Man in your daily newspaper comic strip section, they're still married there. That's one of the places where they're still going to stay married. So there's that. But as for Peter Parker and Mary Jane getting back together, no. But the wedding issue itself, it was beautiful. And Mary Jane's wedding gown, wow. That's all I got. Just wow. Bouncing Boy and Duo Damsel from Superboy 200. Now this one seems to come out of left field more than anything. I mean, why these two members of the Legion of Superheroes included in the wedding album? At the time, Lorna Durgo, aka Triplicate Girl, then became Duo Damsel, was going through a lot of stuff, personally in her life, especially when her unrequited love for Superboy kind of went downhill. She realized it was a crush. There we go. And then comes Chuck Tane, Bouncing Boy. Now, Bouncing Boy is a lot of people think that's just a stupid superhero, stuff like that, being able to bounce all over the place. But when you think about it, the ability to just bounce at the right spot, boom, 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 and carry them off like just a giant billiard ball, knocking people around, and being able to be insulated from electric shock and all that, which actually came up in Legion Superheroes issues, showing how Bouncing Boy's power, even though it was somewhat ridiculous, still always comes in handy. And also the fact that Chuck Tane was also a bit of a clown, bit of a jester, bit of just a fun guy to be around and all that. His type of positive attitude was very infectious, and that's another reason why he was a Legion member to begin with. And so Bouncing Boy and Duo Damsel just grew together. He just loved Lorna, who can't blame her, she's just beautiful and all that, and she grew to love Chuck because he was just a fun guy to be around and just a genuine individual. Also, the fact that I liked it, that show that big guys like me, can find love no matter what. So I'm 51 years old. I'm a big guy, and even though I've had a few relationships in the past, some I cherish, some I shudder at, I've never found the one yet. So I'm hoping that'll happen pretty soon. So let's see what happens. But like I said, Chuck and Lorna, because of that, I hold out hope that anybody can get together and anybody can enjoy being in a good relationship like that. Also, the fact there was a 2-page spread of the wedding party of everybody there, and you had to have a special key at the back of it to figure out who's who. I mean, you had all the members of the Legion of Superheroes, of course, the Wanderers, the Heroes of Lalor, even John Jones, the Marvin Manhunter show. Even Marvin Manhunter? Yeah. John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, showed up. Which makes sense, since the whole ceremony happens on Mars. So, yeah, the Martian Manhunter should be there. And they had also thwart the machinations of the villain Starfinger. Yes, the 30th century had a villain named Starfinger. Gotta love that time, guys. Gotta love it. But overall, it's a good story. It's kind of a fun read for me, and like I said, gives hope that even a big guy like me can find somebody. So I got that going for me, which is nice. Jean-Paul Barbier and Kyle Genadu from Astonishing X-Men 51. Okay, now everybody calm down a little bit. Chris is not going social justice warrior on you, okay? But this is just the way it is. People are going to fall in love no matter what. Gay, straight, black, white, doesn't matter. If you love somebody and if you want to spend the rest of your life with that somebody, no one else's opinion should matter. It's all a matter of who you want to be with, who you want to share your life with. That's all that really matters in comic books and in real life. And anyone that says different, full of shit. Jean-Paul Barbier, or NORTHSTAR, an extreme sport enthusiast, champion skier, and all-around just proud Canadian, who just happens to be gay. NORTHSTAR came out as gay in Alpha Flight 106 during a fight with another hero by the name of Major Maple Leaf, involving a child who was infected with the AIDS virus, and how it led into that. How people who are gay should stay closeted, should stay secret, and no. And in that issue, we kind of learned that a little bit. NORTHSTAR becomes the first openly gay character ever, first openly gay character in Marvel Comics, and because of that, now the first openly gay wedding in comic book history. Astonishing X-Men number 51, which drew a lot of protests from the Million Mom March. That's right, a million moms protested this one. All 15 of them protested the Million Mom March. I don't know how many people showed up at the Million Mom March on this one, but Now, Kyle Genadu, hope I get that last name right, Kyle Genadu is the best friend of Jean-Marie Bobier, or Aurora, NORTHSTAR's sister. Now, he got involved with Jean-Paul's Extreme Sports Company, and slowly and surely they fell in love. And then, at one point, Jean-Paul proposed to Kyle, and the next issue, they got married. And it's one of the best ones out there. I mean, you really see the organic chemistry happen between Kyle and Jean-Paul. It was just like, it's just a good story. I just like the way it was written. I just like the way that they were brought together. And I like the fact that Kyle does not mind Jean-Paul's superheroics. They're just a married couple. And if it was just male-female, no one would think anything of it. But since it's two males, yeah, people get a little bit out of shape. I still don't see why. Why other people's lives matter so hard that you have to interject yourself and say that's not right or wrong. To me, it's just stupid to think of that. Why should another person's life matter so hard that you got to twist it around to make sure it's your life? Is it an ego thing? Is it like just so hardcore, just want to save as many people as possible? Just want to like turn people into like what you think is right? No, don't do that. We're all different for a reason. And it's not so that we can make everyone the same, okay? We're different. Let's enjoy it. And that's my favorite comic book weddings of all time. Well, as of this post. Now, if you think I missed one or if you disagree with my choices, hey, that's what the comment section is for. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to let you know when fresh issue Comic Fun is up and running. And remember, every Wednesday, new comic book day. So come pick up your favorite issues and enjoy the great stories. And even pick up Batman number 50. It's a good one, even though New York Times spoiled it. Again, this is Chris with the Comic Font. Y'all have a great day today.